welcome to today's episode of the Group Therapy Podcast. Today we have the baddest man alive. I'm trying to remember. You were the Cincinnati Shogun. I'm trying to remember all your old names from back in the day.
Brother,
There's a lot. Um, One of my favorite indie wrestlers, and I want to say I would want to consider you. I consider you a friend. We've known each other off and on for years. And Aaron Williams. Aaron, tell us about yourself.
oh, thanks for having me. Yeah, I've been wrestling for about I think I celebrated my 20th year this year. Like for sure, I was kind of a little bit confused about that actually because I couldn't remember my exact start date for like the longest time, and I was just going through old stuff the other day, and I found all my receipts from training, and it kind of helped me like, oh, okay, so if this was my last training day, I know that I wrestled like a week later, then that means that this was the date that I started. So I think it was in June. Back in June was 20 years for me. Wrestled all over the country. I've been in the ring with some of the best wrestlers in the world, people who have main evented WrestleMania and main evented AEW shows and and world champions, current world champions, former world champions. I've kind of got the privilege to do a little bit of everything. Uh, now I still am wrestling on a consistent basis and about to go overseas for the first time. And I'm also a trainer. So got a pretty full plate.
You and I know this. Some people say this is a bad term when it comes to wrestling, but I don't. I think you are a workhorse wrestler. You are what I consider like a Randy Orton. You're the guy who can put anybody through a good match. Uh, you're in there kicking butt, and you make it look easy. And I asked you this years ago. I remember watching you wrestle. I believe it was Jeremiah, and I don't know if it's bad, but I think you said you got a concussion because he kicked you in that first thing. You take a blow to the head, and you told me you don't remember the match at that point.
Oh, actually, that wasn't Jeremiah. I think that was Trey Miguel, actually. Uh,
Okay.
I mean, but unfortunately, that is a story that I'm pretty familiar with telling. Unfortunately, I've had quite a few concussions in the middle of the ring, but I think the one that you're talking about is myself and Trey Miguel, the one half of the current Impact Tag Champs. We're having a match, and Ricky Steamboat was actually our referee.
Referee, yes.
And the match started. At the time, I was very aggressive, and I would usually start my matches just right out of the gate. I would just run at a guy and drop kick him in the corner, and then there we go. That we're started. Well, yeah. Trey was privy, so when I went to do that, he moved out of the way, and my hip hit the top turnbuckle, and it just made me kind of pop and then straight down and walloped my head, and I was gone that from that moment on. And we still had like a 10-minute match, and I do believe or like 15-minute, maybe 10-15 minute match. And when I went back and watched it, it was wild because I was like, well, there I am, and I'm doing all this stuff, and that's what I do, but I don't know who's driving. Like, I don't remember any of this. I don't know what's going on there. And it was even funnier because after I watched it, I noticed Ricky's trying to like get it to be done. He's like trying to fast count me and trying to get me to quit and everything like that the whole match. And I'm just like, nope, no, keep going. And yeah, it's pretty wild night. Like I got to have a few really good matches with Trey Miguel. Super talented kid, man. Obviously, he's went on and done great things for Impact and with Impact, and really, really happy for him and proud of him. I get to say that a lot about a lot of people, really. But
It, I've watched you over the years at Rockstar and stuff, and watched you. You made so many people down there because you. And this is funny because my favorite match that you had was you and Jake, Thanksgiving 60-man Iron Man match.
yeah,
That you guys kept that 60 minutes flowing. It did not feel like 60 minutes. And we had an ongoing joke though that if you were a drinker, you had to take a shot every time Jake cussed because you'd be completely hammered. you and but that is one of my favorite matches of yours, and it's a great match, and it's just you two guys, and it's a Thanksgiving night. It's not a packed house because it's Thanksgiving, but you guys still killed it that night.
yeah, I remember that pretty well. I mean, Jake and I have probably wrestled each other more than I think Jake is. I've wrestled Jake more than I've wrestled anybody. I think I mean, according to cagematch.net or whatever it is on the internet, I think we've wrestled each other 90 times, and they don't even they don't even document every match. Like we've probably wrestled each other well over 100 times, but as far as like documentation goes, we've wrestled each other 90 times, and that's more than most like people in WWE have wrestled each other, and they wrestle each other all the time. So that's quite an accomplishment. We know each other really, really well, and we have great chemistry together.
When you guys were in tags, when you guys were tag team, that was great. I mean, it was a brief minute, but that was still a great tag team you guys had.
We work really, really well together. It's kind of a shame that we don't really get the chance to do that anymore. But I remember that match well. I think we had like 3 matches around that period of time, but all 2 of them went to time limit draws, and then we did the Iron Man match as kind of like the all right. Well, let's see who's gonna win. Jake was the Rockstar champion at the time. And I think at that point in time, I was nursing a torn ACL for, I can't remember if I was nursing a torn ACL or I had gotten it repaired, and I shouldn't have been wrestling anyway. I think it was still torn at that time. But yeah, like I remember those matches pretty daggone well. And Jake just, I mean, he's a special competitor. He's kind of there's very few people that I can say are like kind of I can get in the ring with and just it's magic in a sense, and
Oh
Jake's
yeah.
one of them. One, Gary J's one, Richard Phillips was one before he passed away, and Cody Hawk is one. I guess there's a good amount, but Jake's special because I always thought that he and I were very similar, like in a lot of ways. We both like the same style. We both like kind of move similarly and
Yeah.
kind of same. So
Yeah.
it always made for real good matches.
Yeah. He I always thought it was, I wouldn't say not fair, but the fact that he kind of was always in Dave's shadow for a while. And I always thought that was a shame because he was, I'm going to say probably the better wrestler of the two, but didn't have the charisma that Dave had at that point.
Yeah,
So, but
yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of people would agree with that. And that was basically kind of the case for a long time. I know it was people kind of, I hate to say it like this, but people kind of put up with Dave so they could get Jake. If it makes any sense. But
well,
Jake is certainly came into his own in a lot of ways, and big ups to him, man.
yeah, I felt really bad for him for a while after that whole, I won't get into it, but the whole ordeal. And I thought people kind of dumped on him because, you know, it's the brother and whatnot. And then he kind of came out and he's like straight ahead, and he killed it after that point. So, you know, but you got to take and what's you make chicken salad out of chicken crap. So,
Yeah, take with the good with the bad. You kind
yep.
of you just got to keep rolling, as as Limp Bizkit would say. You keep rolling, rolling, rolling.
So, here's some stuff I did. Who did you train under?
I originally trained under a man by the name of Tom Giamonti out of Price Hill, Cincinnati. I trained there in like 2002 into 2003. And then I graduated from that school and wrestled there for about maybe about a year. Then I moved to another local Cincinnati promotion called Queen City Wrestling. But neither one of them are in operation anymore. Wrestled there for a little bit until the opportunity came to go to HWA and attend one of their trainings, and went and did one of their trainings. And Cody Hawk was basically like, okay, well, you're not terrible, but you need work. And he kind of was like, well, we'll open up the school to you. And then I got my training from Cody. And the good thing about HWA, which was different from the other places, was that HWA also ran weekly shows, and sometimes they would run like 2 times in a week or 3 times in a week, and they would do, I think, Tuesday night showcase every week, and then they would usually have like a Saturday or a Friday show somewhere traveling, and then sometimes they would have Sunday shows. So you had like a lot of opportunity to get reps and a lot of opportunity to be in the ring with people, and not just be in the ring with people, be in the ring with people who were better than you and were going to elevate you. Um, Cody did train me and he gave me so much information, but I really didn't get to wrestle him until years later. So a lot of the knowledge I got was in ring, and it was just kind of wrestling guys like Quentin Lee and Allah Hussein, getting in the ring before shows with guys like Nigel McGuinness and Chad Collier, wrestling John Moxley like all the time, seemingly. There was so much of a vast amount of knowledge, and myself and some of the guys who were like me, like Dave and Jake and Sammy and um, my old tag partner Alan and Richard Phillips and Andre Hart and guys like that, who were all in our like kind of, I guess, our age bracket.
Yeah.
Instead of just kind of um, instead of just kind of chilling and watching it, we took initiative and was like, because all those guys would get in the ring before shows, they would start doing stuff, they would work out with each other, and we would just get in the ring and be like, can you show us things, can you talk to us, can you tell us how to do things? Guys like Matt Stryker and BJ Whitmer and just like so many incredibly talented people. Some of them have, skyrocketed to superstardom, and some of them, just kind of stopped, or didn't get the adoration that I really feel like they deserved. Guys like Cody Hawk is a good example of a guy who was just phenomenal in the ring, just absolutely incredible. And the man can do a match with people, like 6 people all in the ring at once. Nobody knows what they're doing, and he can make it great. And that takes a massive amount of skill. And he also, and I think it was just maybe the generation or the time, those guys didn't just think about just themselves. They think about, okay, well, this is my spot. How can I make everybody else's spot better? Which is a thing that has changed over the years, unfortunately. People are definitely a lot more of the mentality of selfishness, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, than they used to be, which is something I really miss. Like the mentality of, all right, everybody's got to steal the show is, of course, good. You want to be great at what you
Yeah.
do, but not everybody needs to be the main event. Not everybody needs to be, not there doesn't need to be 52 of the same move in one
No.
card and everything like that. Like, but that's kind of an old school storytelling mentality, which not a lot of people have anymore. So,
What, now, I don't know. Did it come from your schooling that gave you that old school mentality, or is that something you already kind of had coming in?
well, I mean, when I first started training, like most people, I was just excited. Like I still remember the first time I stepped into an actual wrestling ring because I was a backyarder. That was like the time frame and everything, and we built our own ring and everything like that. And it was actually pretty great looking back. But the first time I stepped into a real professional wrestling ring, there was goosebumps all over my body. Like I still vividly remember the first time I touched a rope and the first time I stepped through the middle and the top rope and ducked my head under and was like, this, my life has changed now. It's different.
Yeah.
Um, so I think when I first started, I was very much of the mentality of I just want to do cool stuff and I just want to be of this mindset. But I didn't know anything about psychology. I didn't know about in-ring psychology. I didn't know about the psychology of a show. I didn't realize that this is more than just a fun thing to do. It's a business as
Yeah.
well, like to, make money, and we're trying to build a legacy for ourselves and for our families and this, that, and whatever. That part is the lesson that it took me a while to learn. But um, when I got to Cody and I got to, set under Les Thatcher a little bit and got to really understand what psychology was and why we do things and what the purpose of doing things is and how you get the crowd in the palm of your hand as opposed to just popping yourself or popping the boys. That's when I really started to like put things together. Um, and I mean, I may not be a household name by any means, but most of the people who know me and are aware of my career, either behind the guardrail or in the ring, they all know like, oh, that dude knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. So I'm very very glad for my in ring knowledge or my pro wrestling education. It's so it took me a while to like learn it, but now that it's in there, it doesn't leave. Like,
Oh
it
yeah.
can't.
It's and you talk about the people you've wrestled, and I don't think those guys would be in the places that they would be in if it weren't for you. I mean, because like I said, I remember going to Rockstar and seeing you put on killer matches, and you're putting these guys over. Even if you're taking a loss, you're still making them guys look like $1 million. And I mean, you were just, what's the old saying? You could put over a broom. That whole thing, you could make do a good match, and you could, and you were killing it back then. And like I said, I remember going to those shows, and you always knew, you got your kind of your comedy matches. You had your John Murray. You had your Pompano Joe, and then you would get to the mid card and stuff, and then you'd come up and you were. I don't know if you were or not, because I mean I know Gigi and them, and I've never really talked to them about booking and stuff like that. That's their whole thing. Um, but I always thought that they knew for a fact that they could put that belt on you and you'd run with it and make it legit. Because it seemed like every time, something might be going wrong or something bad would happen with a wrestler, Aaron would come up, get that title and carry it and show people what needs to be done. And you know, and when you were running with the tag team, when it was the Night Riders, you guys were killing it as a tag team, and you guys were awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I never quite understood the weird tag title that Rockstar created with the one guy could leave, the two guys, so the third, yeah, that one was confusing. I never did figure that one out.
A little confusing for us too, so don't feel too bad, you know.
I don't feel bad now. I remember the first time they brought that title out. I'm like, so, so the leader could lose a match, and then the guy he lost the match to would now be the leader of the tag team that he, what? Then they kind of separated it and they had the tag title and then you had that one title. And I was like, okay, that's a little easier. But
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got to give him props for trying new things. So,
oh, yeah. Well, if I remember right, what the Lucha Core came from Heartland, came from HWA.
Yeah, I think it originated in a because before Revolver was a thing, Sammy Callahan had a promotion called American Lucha Corps, and I don't think it had that many shows. It might have had like 5 or 6 shows, and that's actually where that title I think originated. It was the American Lucha Corps title, but then at the same time, HWA 2.0 I think was running, and it kind of adapted that title because there was the HWA Cruiserweight title, and I think I was the HWA Cruiserweight champion, and then they brought this Lucha Core title in, and they put it up in some kind of match, and I won that match. So they just kind of blended the Lucha Core title and the Cruiserweight title kind of together in a weird way, and then they kind of got rid of the Cruiserweight title, and it was just the Lucha Core title at that point. And I held on to that bad boy for, shoot, now that I think about it, a pretty good amount of time until I won the HWA championship, actually, and then I lost that, and then it resurfaced in Rockstar years later, and man, I always really enjoyed that championship because it was kind of it was an anomaly, as in like it couldn't have just regular rules. It had like unique rules, and I think if I remember correctly, the rules were anything outside of the ring, anything goes. But once you're inside the ring, it's regular rules. So that was kind of the gimmick of the title, which was, I mean, it was a fun thing to play with, and as a performer and as a wrestler, it was a cool thing. I kind of wish that it was still around in some way, shape, or form, because with the knowledge that I have now, as opposed to the knowledge I had then, I feel like you could do a lot more with that concept than what any of us really were capable of at that time. I think wrestling has evolved quite a bit since 2008 or 9 or whatever it was. So,
Because I believe it was when it had a 20 count, you were outside, everything goes for a 20 count, and then back inside, then it was traditional rules. You go outside, 20 count, back inside. So, dang, sorry, my nose is like itching for me today. But I've followed your career. It's almost since the moment I saw you at Rockstar, because it was you had a great gimmick then. I think you had just, when I started going to Rockstar, I believe you were still the Rockstar champ because you were the first one, right?
I was the second one, actually.
Okay.
But the first one was Ben Chimera, I believe, and then I beat him. And when I beat him, then I transitioned to the Baddest Man Alive character, which is probably what you saw.
Yep.
You saw, which I really, really enjoyed, and it kind of like, at the time that I did it, it was an extension of myself, because I mean, I started wrestling in 2003. That was like roughly 2012, I think, roughly 11
Mhm.
or 12, maybe 13,
Yeah, it was about the
somewhere.
time I opened a shop. Yeah, so it was about
Yeah.
2011, 2012, somewhere in that ballpark.
So like, so from like 2003 to 2011 or 12, I was kind of just most of the time white meat babyface guy, just come on, baby. And I didn't really have anything that was um, unique and special to me. And then Rockstar started, and I was like, I often joke about how many names I've had in wrestling. I had Astonishing, I had the Angelic Assassin, I had the Cincinnati Shogun, I had the Human Terminator, I think was the one for a few minutes, and then eventually I got the baddest man alive because I do have a martial arts background. Always loved old kung fu movies and things of that nature, and I was trying to come up with something different, trying to be more of a character. So I remembered The Last Dragon, or Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, and the character of Shonuff. And I was like, oh, I feel like I could do that. I can take my martial arts stuff. I can become this larger than life um, villain that basically just thinks he is the baddest thing there has ever been. And then my buddy played a song for me from Man with the Iron
Your
Fist,
fist. Yep. I
called
legit have
Live.
that on vinyl.
Yeah, that's awesome. Called The Baddest Man Alive. And I was like, that's it, done. So I went to Cody and I was like, so I got this idea. And he was like, okay. And then that was it. And that ran for a while.
Yeah, because
Uh,
I remember going to many a show and it was BMA, BM.
uh, yeah,
And then when you tagged with Jake, it was the baddest killers alive.
yeah,
Yeah.
we had a cool shirt and everything, man.
Oh
Yeah, it was
yeah.
good times. Good.
I always wish that tag team would have went a little bit longer because that was short lived, man. That was not. Man, I wish that would have went longer, but
Yeah, like that was I mean, I was really enjoying that period of time because I can't remember if I think I was back from my knee surgery at that point in time, but I was really, really scared of re-injuring my knee. So I didn't immediately go back into doing all the stuff that I normally do for like a couple of reasons. One, I should have been in rehab for like 6 months, but life gets in the way sometimes. Things happen and things change. I was only able to do rehab for like a month and a half, maybe. And then I had to like basically go right back to work, the shoot job, and I had to go back to wrestling because I had to make as much money as I possibly could because of the situation I was in at the time. So I remember the first match I had from my knee surgery was actually not a rock star. It was in Wisconsin at a Six Flags, and I remember I was like there, and I was wrestling a guy, and I had him in a headlock, and he shot me off, and I gave him a shoulder tackle, and he went down. And then everybody knows what's going to happen next most of the time. Hit the ropes. He's going to try to trip me. I'm going to hop over him, and then we're going to keep going, right? I was so terrified because my knee was in such like bad shape at that point in time that as soon as I stepped over him when he was going to try and trip me, that I was going to lead with that left leg and my knee was going to go out immediately. I was so terrified. So like everything I did from like that moment, which would have probably been, I want to say maybe it was July, maybe it was August, from like, so basically for like the next 6 to 8 months, I was like babying everything. And I was like really, really scared. And I changed my entire style and everything like that. And that was the baddest killers alive run. And I think Jake maybe was trying to do me a favor there because he knew that I was hesitant and I think he was like, "Well, let me help a little bit." And I think that's why one of the reasons why we formed the Baddest Killers Alive for a little bit. But it was a really good time. It was really fun, and yeah, I miss being the baddest man alive sometimes.
See,
Um,
you need to dust that back off. You need to just go on a run to start tearing through everybody, and all of a sudden, just one day at a show, your music kicks, and here you walk out, get your old gear on, like,
buddy, yeah, man, wild. It's been a long time since I dusted that stuff off. I don't even know if it fit anymore. Good lord.
oh, I'm not gonna lie. If I would have went back to the time you were that, uh, I was probably at my fattest. Not gonna lie, I was. I got really when I left working a full time job and I started running my comic shop full time. I got lazy and gained a ton of weight, and I was bordering 250 at one point, and
Uh,
I'm only 5'10".
ooh,
And,
okay.
and my wife looked at me. She goes, "You want to start going to the gym because Planet Fitness opened up here in town?" And I'm like, "Not really. I'm never gonna go." And then I started going. I fell in love with it,
Nice.
and I go 3 days a week. I even work out on my off days here at the house. I started eating right, and the last time, all of a sudden, I just decided because I didn't weigh myself for the longest time because I was freaked out, and I weighed myself about 2 months ago, and I was down to 167.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I'm fit now. I got muscle tone now. I almost got abs. Uh, my diet still ain't the greatest, but but shit, I mean, I'm just shy of 50, so I don't think that's pretty bad at that point.
Not bad at all, man. That's
Nah.
great.
And
That's great. It's
my
crazy how fitness has impacted my life as well. Obviously, like I think I stayed, physically active, like and fit pretty much most of my life. But wrestling definitely kept me going and everything like that. But it's like amazing how much it will help, like during the difficult times of your life too. Like you really kind of like
oh
lean
yeah,
in when things go awry, and you have those bumpy valley moments. Like you can get in the gym somewhere, you can put your headphones in, you can just listen to whatever you listen to and just vibe out, just push through it and everything like that. It's necessary. I feel like
oh yeah. It's therapeutic
yeah.
as I like to say. Is it's and everybody's like, "Oh, you're," no, I was like, "No, I'm an advocate for that now." And I was like, I never in a million years, if you'd have told me when I was 35 that I would have been like, "Oh, you're gonna be the guy that tells everybody to go to the gym," I'd be like, "Whatever." And going, I worked out in my garage for years. Now I'm like, "Yeah, go to the gym, work out, get healthy, get on that treadmill."
Yeah, man. Yeah, it definitely helps.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it is changed my life pretty good. I feel pretty good. Uh, it it helps with releasing stress and all that other fun stuff. And man, I love it. I'm get up. I
Yeah,
go in tomorrow morning. So,
yeah.
but I wish I had time to go more than just 3 days a week. But I work out here too, so I figure that makes up the difference. So, um, okay. So we were talking about at the beginning about some of the people you've been in a ring with. Who's your favorite person? That's not like your guys you came up with and stuff like that. Who's your favorite person that you've been in a ring with?
Um, I mean, it's a tough call, man. Like I've got to be in the ring with just incredible, incredible people. I'd be a fool if I didn't mention John Moxley. He was, he's just. I mean, it's clear he's pretty dang good. I would say, like, out of the people that like I didn't grow up with, I guess, because Moxley would be a person I would consider I kind of grew up with. Um, Jake would be a person I kind of consider I grew up with. Um, probably Gary J would probably be like my favorite person to be in the ring with. Um, Matt Taylor is also a big one for me. That Ron Mathis is also a big one for me. Like, there's so many.
Gary's
But
your
well,
current tag partner, right?
Gary is he's one half unsigned and don't care. We both kind of wear that moniker proudly. It kind of gets us a lot of heat, and people don't like it very much. At least people in the business don't like it very much. Um, but as it says, we don't really care. So whatever. Um, but he and I got put together at like a random show one time. And they were just like, okay, well, the main event's hurt, so can you guys do main? We're like, yeah, I guess so. So we go out there and it was almost like instant click. Like we'd never wrestled each other before. And I now like, and anytime we get together, it's like we push each other, we beat each other up, and whether we're against each other or tagging, I think we make something special happen. And not only is he like my brother in the ring, he's kind of like my brother on the outside of it too. He's a wonderful human being, a great guy, and helped me in a lot of ways. And he doesn't. I mean, I'm glad that he's kind of getting a little bit of the notoriety that he deserves. He's about to wrestle Masato Tanaka in a week.
Nice.
Or no, not even a week. It's Thursday. He's going to wrestle him Thursday. So that's awesome. And I'll be on the show as well. So I'll get to see it live. So it's going to be freaking awesome.
Where's that at?
That's in St. Louis for St. Louis Anarchy. I believe it's available for purchase to watch online. I just can't remember how right now. If you pay attention to my Twitter, there's probably a way to find out. But Gary's my dude, man. He's probably my favorite guy. He's the only person other than Matt Stryker to chop me so hard I thought about quitting the wrestling business because he's small, but man, he packs a punch, brother. Gosh. So that would be Gary. And I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the other guys I mentioned. Matt Taylor and Ron Mathis are two guys who, like myself, have kept the Ohio wrestling scene afloat in my mind. When other people would, get better opportunities or get different opportunities, and they would take advantage of those, and they would leave and go and do other things. Myself, Ron Mathis, and Matt Taylor have always been there to be like, okay, like you said, with Rockstar, for example, when somebody would go down, they would call on me. I feel like myself, Mathis, and Matt have taken it upon ourselves, kind of in a way, to be like, we will continue to make wrestling important in Ohio. We will continue to put forth the effort. We will continue to raise the bar. And I feel like the three of us, at least in this state, are three of the best there is, especially in the state. I mean, I kind of feel like in a lot of ways, we're much better than people you see on TV on every Monday or Wednesday or Friday or whatever the case it is. We just never got the opportunities that some other ones did. But we have kept it afloat, and we have put in the work, and I'm very proud of all of our efforts. I'm very proud of both of them to have continued like I have. And it's a special brotherhood that I think that I have with any of those guys. Anytime we get together, it's going to be something to be remembered, and that's great.
Well,
it's kind of one of the things you do it for.
Oh yeah, I don't get to go to as many shows as I'd like to. Realistically, my problem is that War up in Lima runs Saturdays, and that's my busy day at the shop, so I can't get away. DCW is sporadic, and I don't I don't get to go see them. Rockstar was nice because I could legitimately leave my shop at close at 7 o'clock, and I could be there by the time the doors open because they never open the doors at the right time down there, anyways. So I could always make it in before the doors opened, and from the shop, and so I love that. Ironically enough, I have been going up to Michigan and stuff, but I have been following the guys I used to watch at Rockstar, even if it's just on the internet and little shows and what, or not little shows, but like videos. And Matt has got that character, his new gimmick, and he is killing that gimmick. And I was like, and I've been watching it evolve, and I like I said, I don't even get to go to the shows. I've just seen it on the internet and him and the character online, and you're just watching it. I'm like, this kid knows what he's doing. I say kid because he's younger than me, but he's a road weary veteran at this point. But you know, he's
He's
killing it.
yeah, he's got it, man. He's got something special, and it's and Mathis is the same way. He like there's nobody knows themselves, in my opinion, better than Ron Mathis does. He knows exactly what he's capable of. He knows exactly what he brings to the table, and he always brings it. He's never off, in my opinion. And Matt's the same way, man. They're neither one of them are ever off. Uh, People used to praise me by saying that if you have a bad match with Aaron Williams, then you probably shouldn't be a wrestler. I would definitely say the same thing for both of those guys. If you can't have a good match with those guys, then there's something wrong with you. It's definitely not them. They are top notch in my opinion, and it's a real shame that they never got like the real opportunity to show that to a larger audience. A lot of most of that has to do with like politics and stupid stuff like that. That unfortunately is still very much a thing, and probably will never be a thing, or never not be a thing. Rather, uh, but man, those guys are so good, and if they ever watch this, I want them to know that I am a guy who appreciates their
I'll,
hard work.
I'll tag him in it and try to send it to him, because Mathis in the tag team with Bruce, right?
Who is also, man, I can't believe I almost forgot Bruce. Bruce is just buddy. Like Bruce Gray knows tag team wrestling so well. There's very few people. Like it's funny because when Gary and I wrestle as a tag team, Gary like kind of like shoves it to me. He's like, you just, you're the psychology guy. You make it work. Like this is what I want. You make it work, and I do. And that's usually how I do with most tag team stuff because I'm a pretty good tag wrestler. I know how to do it. But when I'm in a tag match with Bruce Gray, I take a back seat and I'm just like, whatever you want to do, whatever you think is good, we're going to do that because I trust your judgment far more than I trust my own. And I've watched him evolve so much as well. Like he actually started out as a referee and then eventually transitioned into a wrestler. And then he was bombastic Bruce Gray. And then he like went into the
White trash.
Brits and then just so much stuff. And
Him and John Murray. The fact that they got that John Murray over as much as they did is just astounding.
John's a great dude too, man. Like
He's a fun dude.
he was, in my personal opinion, John Murray was Rockstar Pro Wrestling for a very long time.
Oh,
Like he made that place work. Like he made it so good and so entertaining. And
the fact that
there was, some stuff that apparently happened with him and some of those people, which it's really, really sad because Murray was the man. Like, and there's never a way that you could take that away from him.
oh,
For a period of time, John Murray was Rockstar Pro Wrestling. He bled black and green, man. If it wasn't for him, the company wouldn't have been what it was. He was a massive part of it.
I remember listening. I was doing dishes one night, and I I'm a late night guy, so I'm literally doing dishes at like I don't know, like 2 in the morning. So I'm cleaning the kitchen and stuff. Everybody else is asleep in the house. I got the Jim Cornette podcast going in the background, and it was the episode where they started talking about. I was like, I was there. I was there at that show, and he's talking crap about it, and I'm like,
Uh,
that was funny. And John, he took that for every bit and made it his own. And I'm like, you can take being talked down to by Jim Cornette and turn it into a positive, and he did it. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
well, it's bad. You know, we were talking about Matt, we were talking about John, and stuff like that. And I really want to sit down because I've been like me and you have. I've been playing tag with Matt for a while now because he wants to be on the show too. And it was like, okay, can you? Yeah, I'm busy. So we just kind of, and then I try again if later, and then he'll contact me, and I'm like, well, I'm open this day. And I'm like, I'm busy that day. So we go back to doing what we're doing. I got it. I want to ask him because you know there's I would like to get the rumors like cleared up, you know, of some of the stuff with him and
You want
John. But
to all right,
yeah,
all
and
right.
I'm not gonna say any of them, but you know, I would just like to get them cleared up and stuff like that. So because they're
Um,
always cool dudes to me, always treated me really well. I've never had the first issue with any of them, but you know what you do.
I mean, man, it's tough. Wrestling's tough, man. It's a really tough thing. There are like, I mean, I'd love to say that everything's squeaky clean all the time and everything just peachy, but the truth of the matter is it's not.
Oh
Uh,
no.
there is, especially just in Dayton alone, just if you just look at Rockstar, there's all kinds of stuff that if somebody wanted to really open up the book and just be like, okay, this is why this is why this is why this is why this, it'd be pretty easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it would basically paint some people who are highly regarded in a negative light. And unfortunately, some of those people that are highly regarded, if they get painted in a negative light, then they are going to do everything within their power to do two things: backtrack, which unfortunately they're already looked at in a high regarded light.
Mm-hmm.
So their backtracking is going to be easy. So then they're going to turn it on whoever
Throw people under
that
the bus. Yeah.
they're going to throw people under the bus, which unfortunately has happened to a lot of us already anyway. So um, it's unfortunate, man. It really, really is. A lot of careers could have gone a lot further if it wasn't for a lot of like the stupid politics. A lot of the careers that are still going now could be a lot further if it wasn't for some of the dirty politics that happens in wrestling, especially in Dayton. Um, I get questions all the time. Hey, Aaron, why don't you work here? I don't know. Well, I do know, but they're not answers that you're going to want to hear.
Oh
They don't really anything to do with me. They have to do with other things. It
yeah.
doesn't have to do with my talent or my skill or my drawing power or my backstage etiquette or my etiquette in general. It is a preference.
Well,
And, you know,
it's oh yeah. Well, I've said this. I'm not gonna say any names. Nothing that. Um, there's people who've made it to the big leagues, and I knew them from back in the day, and I was like, I don't know how they passed a drug test to ever get in the ring, you know. And I'm like, and then it's funny because everybody's like, oh, it's a rumor. I'm like, yeah, it's a rumor until you walk in on them doing it. Okay, you know, you just I saw it with my own eyes. I was there.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's a funny thing. It's a rumor until you know it's true, and then
yeah,
it's not a rumor anymore. Yeah.
and what was really funny was and this is going to go towards you being praised for you. I was a couple years back. My wife and I decided to go to New Orleans for our anniversary. She asked me. She goes. Well, there's wrestling down there. Do you want to go that while we're down there too? And I'm like, yeah, let's go to wrestling down there. We went to Wildcat Wrestling, which is Luke Hawx's organization, who's choir boy Luke. He was on. He's been around forever. He's now on. He was on Heels. But I'm talking to him, and we're talking about the wrestlers that I'm watching up here. And I was like, your name came up, and he's like, yeah, I hear that guy's great. And I was like, you guys would put on a phenomenal match. And he goes, yeah, the bald guy is up there wrestling. And but the problem is he never, I don't think he ever comes this far north because he's too busy. He's a stunt man too, so he's busy doing other stuff. So but yeah, it was funny because he knew exactly who you were, and and I don't know if you guys had ever been in the same
No,
area or
think
anything, but
I don't think I've ever got the pleasure of meeting him. Like I've just now kind of recently started to accept, I guess, my reputation. I've always kind of like downsold myself
yeah,
extensively. Like I was taught, humility is the key to brilliance and stuff like that, which is true. But at some point in time, I think you kind of just got to be like, oh, well, maybe there's something to this. Like I've worked very hard. I've been a wrestler for 20 years. I've never been a politicker. I've always been a wrestler. I've always been the type of guy that's like, I want you to use me because of my talent, and I have plenty of it. But that's not necessarily the world we live in.
yeah.
Which is what it is. But now I can finally be like, well, it is kind of cool that, if you go somewhere else, and you say my name, people know who I am. And I've never even never met them. Been like that. That's very cool.
For those who do not know, you, since I've known you, no profanity. You I don't think I've ever seen you say any cuss words at all ever. And
it's huge rarity.
yeah. And you're a teetotaler. You do not drink or party or nothing. No.
I don't do any of that. A little bit of my background is I was raised religiously, and I am a follower of Jesus Christ, and so on and so forth. But when I was a young pup, in the age bracket of like, I don't know, 12 to like 16, it was not hard to get your hands on things in my world.
Yeah.
Part of the town that I lived in. So at like 13, I was smoking like a pack of cigarettes a day. And alcohol and other things were easy to get your hands on. I remember this is probably the thing that like really struck me to make me be like, okay, well, maybe that's not for me. I went to a party with some older people, and they basically just fed me booze. I was like 15, I guess. They just fed me booze. So much so that I ended up in a kitchen floor, puking up blood everywhere, just everywhere. And somebody eventually came and found me, and they were like, hey, this kid's in here puking up blood. And these were adults. Their answer to that was put him in the bathroom. So they put me in the bathroom tub, they shut the door, they didn't open it up again.
Jeez.
Yeah. So after I woke up from that and I went on my way home, I was like, okay, I think I'll not do that anymore. It's kind of like a hard lesson of better take care of yourself, bud, because nobody else is going to take care of you.
So you learned your lesson young. I did not learn my lesson until I was an adult man, and I was like, "Oh, I need to sober up. This is ridiculous."
Yeah, I definitely learned young, probably too young, but young.
Yeah. Well, I did almost the exact same thing you did. I remember being at a party, and it was one of my best friends' brother and sister were all older than us, and they were just letting it. We were just drinking and drinking and drinking. I think we were like 14, 15, and I got hammered on vodka. And it was one of the ones where they thought it was hilarious. And now I look back and I'm like, man, I love those people. They were like my brother, my best friend's brother and sister were like my brother and sister. And I'm like, damn, I love them to death. And they let me do that. Like, I still
Yeah.
love them to death, but it's like dumb kid stuff.
Yeah, it's like dumb kid stuff. But man, it's like it's scary when you like look back at it with like, a different mindset or whatever. It's like, shoot, man, I could have died in
Oh,
that
yeah.
bathtub. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy to think about, right? But I mean, thankfully I didn't. I just learned a really, really rough lesson at a young age. Um, but that's life, right? We're just constantly going through it, constantly learning, constantly adapting and moving forward. So
Yep.
uh,
It's when you stop learning and when you think you know everything is when you screw up big time. And the you know, like I said, following you for a long time, I've watched you wrestle so many people, so many big name people, the past legends and stuff like that. I gotta ask, did you ever like fan out on any like just had to control yourself because like dude, I could not be in a ring with Ricky Steamboat. There's no way. Even if he was the ref, I'd be like, oh man, that's Ricky Steamboat. I'm gonna screw this up so bad. That's Ricky Steamboat.
I mean, I've had like shoot, man, I've had like a lot of really, really cool experience with people who would be, legends or people who have done awesome things in the business and everything like that. Um, Ricky was one, but like I said, I was out of it that whole match. Like when I watched it back, I only remember one thing from that whole match, and it was I wore this like bandana in front of my crotch at the time, and I remember
Yep.
at one point in time I took it off and kind of threw it. That's the only thing I can remember about the whole thing. And I was just like watching the match, waiting for me to do it. At the end of the match, Ricky raises my hand, and then I do it. And then him and I do a spot together, and he chops me and does some stuff with me, and I take some bumps with him. I don't remember any of that, and that's really, really sad. But I would say the big one for me, because I've got to do a lot of cool stuff. I got to wrestle Al Snow like a bunch of times. I got to wrestle like Kevin Thorne and Ken Anderson, and like I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but for me it was Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn refereed a match between myself and Jeremiah.
Yep. I remember
Uh,
that was there.
and Jerry was like, for me, like obviously everybody has like their top tier wrestlers. Shawn Michaels, Rob Van Dam, Jerry Lynn, Great Muda, guys like that for me. Jerry Lynn was up there. So to be in the same ring as Jerry Lynn was incredible to me. He probably, up until recently, which still probably is, but I have another really, really good moment that I'll talk about in a second. But me and Jeremiah, of course, we're both, Lynn Marks and big fans of the RVD Lynn series. So we were like, all right, let's do it. Let's go hard and try to pay homage to this guy who inspired us so much with him right there. So we do. We start doing Jerry Lynn RVD spots. And at some point in time, I get Jeremiah in a pin. And I look up at Jerry and he's just looking at me. And then he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And he comes down and he makes the pin and then we keep going and everything like that. And we just, we go ahead and we have our match. We get to the back and Jerry walks up and he's like, hey guys, that was really good. Sorry about that pin at the beginning. I was just having fun watching you.
Man, that's high praise.
I was like, okay, I can stop now. Like, I really don't need anything else. Like that made at that point in time, I was, in the thick of things in a lot of ways. And those like, man, it's funny how wrestling has like helped me out so much, like in just life in general. Cause I was going through some stuff at that point in time. And he said that, and that was like a thing that kind of like, oh yeah, And then the other thing that I will mention just recently happened. I got to tag with Paul London in a match against Ron Mathis and Tyler Box, and Bruce Gray was ringside for it. And I've never met Paul, but we had a mutual friend, and so we've kind of known each other, but not really.
Yeah.
And the moment that I saw him, like I was out there doing my stuff, I saw that he was here at his table and everything like that. Go to the back, and he's there's two locker rooms. I think he's in one, I'm in the other. I'm getting changed. He eventually comes in and takes one look at me. He's like, "Dude, you're huge." Gives me a big hug, and he's like, "It's so nice to finally meet you," and everything like that. And we go throughout the night, and we go out there, and we have just such a good time, like such an awesome time. And I was like, "Man, this is great. This is fantastic." Like, I think if I could give, I mean, I got a lot of advice, I got a lot of knowledge in my head, but I think if I could give advice to any like young people coming up in the business, any trainees or whatever, I would say drink in those moments, man, because you're only going to get them once. And you don't want to forget those, because those are the only things that you're going to look back and be like, I got to do that.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you'll go to WrestleMania. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll debut on AEW one day. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll get in a plane, fly to another country. Maybe you won't. But you're going to have those moments regardless. And man, those things can make it all worth it, really. So
yeah. Well, this is funny because I was talking to somebody about this the other day about Jeremiah, and we were talking about him. I don't know the dude personally, don't know, but man, that guy knew how to get people to hate him. He had heat. Holy crap. I don't think the entire time we were there anybody got the kind of heat that Jeremiah got.
I don't think so. I mean, and it's so funny too, because honestly, he got that much heat. I have no idea what Jeremiah was. To this day, I have no idea what his gimmick was. I have no idea.
Either.
But
like, people,
I don't even know that. But that man had so much heat that I guess he didn't need one. He
could have been Jeremiah the heat magnet. I don't know. And like I said, never really had it because he was really good at staying away from fans. So you really didn't talk to him. You didn't know how he was in real life. His shoot. I don't know anything about him outside of the ring. He could be the nicest, coolest dude you will ever meet in your entire life, and you're like, I still don't like him.
Well, I know, and I'm not going to ruin it for you. So we're just going to let you.
I'm not going to lie. That was one of the hardest things about becoming like, meeting all you guys and talking to you guys over the years and all that stuff. Because, some of you guys are like, oh, man, I hate him. Then you meet him like, oh, but he's such a nice guy in real life. I can't hate him anymore. And then, although I'm not going to lie, somebody that I loved when I was younger, absolutely loved his wrestling. I finally got to meet him when he was at Rockstar, everything else. He's the first and only person I've ever had to block on Twitter. Yeah, and I'm not gonna say any names or nothing, but he's. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
Sabu.
Oh yeah, I understand.
And it was all because I posted a picture one time, I think on Twitter. It was I had a wall of all my wrestling autographs. So I had this at the shop. I've moved it around since then. But and one of his pictures was in there, but also and he's like, and I get this message from him. He's like, hey, he goes, I drive by where you're at constantly. I can do an in-store. And I'm like, all right. And we started going back and forth. He quoted me a price, and then I was like, okay, well, I don't think I'd make that much money. And he goes, well, that's my wrestling price. I'm like, well, what's your just show up at the shop, sign autographs, and leave price? Never did quote it to me. But it kept going back and forth, back and forth. He goes, well, I know the wrestling places down at Dave. Why don't you talk to them? And we'll do this. I'll do that, and I'll hit you on the way up, or I'll hit you and then go down there. And I'm like, okay. So I contacted, and he's like, no, we're not really doing anything right now. And I'm like, all right. So I told him, well, I know there's another place. So I got a hold of DCW, and I was like, hey, Sabu's getting a hold of me, blah, blah, blah. Would you be interested? And they're like, no, we're more our own guys. We don't like bringing in outside. And I'm like, I understand, blah, blah. And then he starts like basically like trying to like strong arm me into having him there and paying him. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I can't. No. I'm walking away from this. I was like, I don't think it's going to be making either one of us money. And so it went back and forth, and he started getting like really kind of pissy about it. And I'm like, whatever, man, block. And then like 2 days later, Super Genie gets a hold of me. And she starts telling, well, you owe us. I don't owe you nothing. I didn't sign nothing. I didn't agree to nothing. Whatever. Block. And I'm like, first time I've had to block anybody on Facebook, and it's Sabu or Twitter. And it was like, it made me hurt inside. I'm not gonna lie. Because I loved him in the ECW days and the WCW days back then. But
that's unfortunate.
And it's funny because then I talk to because I'm into comic books and I go to the conventions and stuff. And I've talked to people who are promoters, in other states and whatnot, and they're telling me these horror stories. I'm like, oh, okay, then mine isn't that bad.
Yeah.
So it's bad. The worst story I think I've ever heard was two. Was one day Jake the Snake showed up, was supposed to do a show for a guy I knew. And I think he was in Kentucky maybe or something like that. And this is when he was at his worst. So he shows up messed up. He tells them that he wants more money, a bottle of Jack Daniels, and crack. And they're like, well, we'll give you the money. We'll get you the Jack Daniels, but we're not buying you crack. And I guess they had gotten everything out. They had his table set up ready because he did the match. And then he was supposed to come out and sign autographs. And I guess they had a kid helping them. And they're like, pretty soon they're looking around. No Jake, no Jake, no Jake. And they're like, well, hey, go see if he's in the locker room. And they're like, dude, he just left. So he just
skated.
And then the other one was I can't remember who it was. I want to say it's a wrestler, maybe Manny something. But he was trying to force his way on the cards. He would like be shooting through a town, see that there was a wrestling event going on, and he would just show up and he'd be like, hey, Bill hired me to be on the show tonight. And they'd be like, no, nobody hired you to be on the show tonight. Yeah. I think it's Bill. Bill got me on the show tonight. Well, we don't have you. Well, just pay me, and if you're not going to use me, just pay me so I can leave. And he was basically trying to strong arm them into paying him so he could just show up and leave. Like,
shoot, bold move. Stuff like that really wouldn't work these days, man.
But these were all older dudes that wrestled back in the day. But yeah, the dude was legit trying to like con his way on the cards just because he happened to be driving through the area. I guess Virgil was the same way at one point too, but I'm not gonna say if that's true or not. But yeah, but what's really funny well, not really funny, but a while back, your former tag team partner was at the shop because he was there for Vectron. And I sit there and talk to Dustin for a while. And the worst part about it is, man, I watch him on Facebook and stuff. Like, I think that dude's in better shape now than he was when he was in the ring.
Yeah, dude, I miss Dustin so much. Man, do I love that dude. Such a good dude. Just, gosh, I really can't say enough good things about Dustin Reyes or, Dustin in general.
Yeah.
That's not fantastic person. Love that guy. Miss him so much. Miss him every day.
Yeah.
Talk to him more.
It's nice because, like I said, I run into him sporadically here in town from time to time. I just ran into him a couple months back at Speedway, not far from the shop. We talked for a little bit and went on our way. But man, and I was like, "Do you miss it?" And he goes, "No, well, sometimes." But it's like,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
but we got 3 kids now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He was another one that I really loved being in the ring with too. Dustin was great. Like no matter in the same way that Gary was like whether I was wrestling him or teaming with him. Alex too, honestly. Just love those dudes. Love them.
I miss we were talking, me and one of my buddies that used to go down to Rockstar with me all the time was like, man, I miss the Night Riders. I was like, I don't think that'll ever happen again. I was like, because I don't think Dustin will get back in the ring. I was like, but we can still get Alex and
Maybe someday.
Aaron. So I think the last time I got to talk to Alex was at a GCW show in Detroit. So that's been like 2 years ago now, maybe. But
Yeah. Don't get to see him much anymore either, but he's doing great things, man. Real happy for old Alex.
it's you know, I miss the whole feel of it way it was on those Friday nights. I miss going down there. I miss, I'd always try to, even if at least say hi to you every show. You at least say hi, we at least talk for a few minutes, try to. And it's like we were messaging the other day that there's no real local wrestling anymore.
No, not
I don't know about the one that's been running out of Odd Bodies in Dayton. What is it? XVW or
W. Yeah, I know Ron Mathis works up there, and Bruce is up there. I think Murray shows up every now and then, and they got like maybe a couple hopefuls over there, but it's not like to me, like I was talking about HWA earlier, how like you go there and you would work with people and they would immediately elevate you. Rockstar in a lot of ways was the same way. Like you work there and you would get elevated by the people there. With XPW, I kind of feel, of course, you have like Ron Mathis, you have a couple Bruce Gray, you have some of those guys who can elevate a little bit, but not everybody can elevate. So it's I've only been to like one of their shows, so I really can't say much per se. But I do think they're the only like, other than like NWF who still runs weekly. I think they're the only game in the general area. So you can get reps if you're a wrestler, and you can see a show if you're a fan. So of course, I'm always gonna hope the best for any up and coming indie promotion that's gonna put on shows and give people some time to escape. So best of luck to them, and hope it goes well.
yeah. We also talked. I was like, I had every intention of buying a ring, finding a building, starting my own, running it. I wasn't gonna run it. I was gonna own it because I was like, man, it's just another thing I'd be putting on my plate. And
Yeah.
it was my wife who stepped up and she goes, you're not going to. You're going to be there every time. You're going to be micromanaging. She goes, I've never told you no in your entire life. She goes, but this might be the first time I will tell you no.
Wrestling is tough, man. Like I don't think people, and I didn't for a long time either, but there's so much that goes into it. Because like I said, it's a business. You are a business. All that goes into running that shop. Wrestling is the same way. It's a business, and you have to work at it. Like,
Oh yeah.
Voters have this issue where they think that, well, I'll just post some stuff on Facebook and that'll be it. Like, no, That's not it. Like you gotta work hard, man.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta flyer, you gotta pay for ads, you gotta do anything within your power to get the word out about your show because nobody's looking for it. You have to show,
Yep.
you know, like somebody once gave me a piece of advice when it came to like, I got the advice way late, but I eventually got this piece of advice which said that basically like, do you send stuff to the WWE? I just said, well, no. They're like, do you think Vince McMahon is looking for you? No, of course he's not looking for me.
No.
Like I got to show him something. In the same sense, that's how wrestling is. You can't just expect people to
Nope.
just show up. This is not a if you build it, they will come type of scenario. Wrestling is a business and it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do. If you can run shows on a semi-regular basis and they be like relatively successful, then you're doing okay.
Oh yeah.
But you
And,
know,
and
if you expect it to be profitable in the first couple of years, nah, man, that ain't gonna happen.
the, well, it's like me and my shop. It's you got to know what product, so you got to know which wrestlers to bring in. You got
Oh,
to know what their value is
yeah.
because I had a discussion years ago with CW, and we were talking, and he goes, "Yeah," he goes, "I could get the Bucks here," and this is when the Bucks were just indie darlings, but they weren't over huge. They weren't the Bucks that we know now. And he goes, "Would they bring in a handful of people? Yeah. Would they make enough money for me to justify bringing them in? No. Would
Yeah.
they make money? Yes. But would they make enough? No. So you got to justify that.
Yeah, you have to weigh out your options and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And with as many wrestlers as there are out there, it's makes it even tougher. Like it really does. Like that's why you have these shows with these like, 8-man scramble matches and everything like that. And that's why a lot of guys don't get paid. And that's why, I like, for example, it's taken me a long time to kind of realize my worth. And because now I realize my worth, there are a couple of weekends out of the month that I'm sitting at home because people don't want to pay me what I know I'm worth.
Yeah.
So, and maybe they can't, which I kind of understand. I'm not even going to be mad about it. Like it sucks for me, but I don't want anybody else to go in the hole because they overplayed their hand. That's
Yeah. Yeah. You
uh,
know, I said this, and I will say this: if I ever would open up and create a wrestling organization, the first person I would hire was you. You would legit, because I wouldn't even hire you, maybe not even as a wrestler. I'd have you helping put other people over, helping, all that stuff, because I think you have the mind for it. And I've seen you do stuff down there in Dayton. I've seen you do stuff, getting your stuff over in other organizations. And I think you could do that with other people. I think you'd be a great promoter. So,
yeah, maybe be a great agent, but
yeah, agent, yeah, maybe an agent more than a promoter, but
not
yeah,
that I want. But I mean, uh, I'm a trainer now, so that's one thing that I even kind of like. Oh, I don't know. Like it's funny because I look at being like a trainer because people always ask me like, when are you going to start training people? I'm like, as long as like Cody Hawk is training people, I don't need to train people. Like because to me, Cody is the man, and then under him is like in this area you got Roger Ruffin, and then Sammy Callahan opened a school and everything like that. There's plenty of people to train. But then when Cody asked me to take over for him, I still look at it and I'm like, yeah, I got a lot of knowledge, but I don't know if I should even be training people at this point, because it's like there's so much to this business and there's so much that I still am learning. And I am a firm believer that if you ever think you know everything about this business, you're lying to yourself because just like art, wrestling is subjective. Wrestling is art. So in a subjective world, anything can work, which means it's impossible to learn everything. It's just so vast.
yeah.
But yeah, I could talk about just wrestling and mentalities about it and psychology of it and this, that, and whatever.
That's for
Literally
another show. That's for
for days, man.
yeah. Well, it's I could legitimately talk to you forever. Because you're a fountain of knowledge. You know, you've been in the business for 2 decades. You've wrestled so many people. You have, you know, you seem to have a pretty good mind for the business. Um, you know, you're training people now, and you're legitimate. We could probably just do a show just talking about training, and never once talk about anything else. Um,
Yeah.
but you, like I said, you are awesome. You're one of the people that when I first started coming down to Rockstar, I was almost all out of wrestling. I was almost completely out. I just kind of was like, I'm burnt out on it. And then I started watching you guys wrestle down there, and I started finding my love for it again. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And now I'm to the point now where I still enjoy live indie wrestling. I almost don't watch anything on TV if it's not either old or independent wrestling. Um, I do watch all the documentaries and behind the scenes. That stuff's just fun, and um, and it's cool to see that you've been in this business for so long. I know you've had injuries, and I've known won't get into that, but the fact that you still love the business,
Yeah.
you are very passionate about the business. You are, you like you said, you know what your worth is, and you have set that. You're not going to budge on that because you know your value. And I think that's a lot of what these young wrestlers don't understand is if you know what you're worth, you might have to give up a couple paychecks, but don't let people tell you what you're worth. Let you tell yourself what you're worth.
Yep.
And
You gotta have an idea of who you are. Like
mhm.
not only wrestling, but in life
Yeah.
in general. You
Oh
have to
yeah.
have an idea of who you are because if you don't, and we all fail at this at some point in time. I think we all like get mixed up in things, but that's what creates points where people can take advantage of you, or people can use you,
Yep.
or hurt you. Whatever is, if you lose that sense of self and you lose that sense of who you are, and you start um, basically creating counterfeits for the things that you know about yourself. And wow, okay, that's too deep. I'm getting too deep. I'm sorry.
Getting too deep. It
But
is. It is about finding your self worth and your value as a person. And it's nice to know that you know your place or know your value, and you know that sometimes you might have to give up that paycheck because it is hard sometimes to walk away from money. I'm not gonna be that. I'll be the first one.
that's true. I mean, in wrestling, I kind of got it figured out. Life, ugh, we'll see. We'll get
Life,
that figured out.
wrestling's easy. Life is hard. No,
Yeah, that's a tomorrow era problem.
that's a tomorrow problem. Oh man. Um, but so before we get ready to go, I know the story. Can you tell the people where you got Aaron Williams from?
Yeah. So when I started out wrestling, I was given the name Charles, call me Chaz Farnsworth III. It's funny because as a trainee, I have a extensive martial arts background. Charles, call me Chaz Farnsworth III, was a collegiate wrestler. Those two things they don't really go together much, um, and I basically hated it. I didn't really understand it. It wasn't like a good thing for me, and I just hated it. Now, looking back, with the knowledge I have, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what I could have done with that. But at the time, I was young and I wanted to do cool stuff, so I was like, I hate this. So I was Charles, call me Chaz Farnsworth for like a year. Then I left that place, and I was like, I immediately need to change my name. And then I showed up in another promotion, and they were like, "Okay, we're going to change your name." And I was like, "Sweet." And then they were like, "Your name is Sweet Lou Roberts." And I was like, "What? I don't, I don't want to be Sweet Lou Roberts." And they were like, "Well, you're Sweet Lou Roberts." So they sent me out, and I had my first match at that place as Sweet Lou Roberts. Oh no, my phone's dying. Um,
Hurry up then.
so I finished the match, go to the next show, and I gird up my loins and I walk up to the promoter and I'm like, "Listen, I really don't want to be Sweet Lou Roberts." And they're like, "Okay, what do you want to be?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. You didn't think about that?" "Well, no." "Well, you're next, you know. Uh, so you need a name." Uh, uh, I guess Aaron Williams, because William is my middle name. So that is the wonderful story of how I became Aaron Williams. Because I am not creative at all and put in a pinch. There we go.
And that's how we get Aaron Williams, the professional wrestler.
How we have it.
Before you run out of time on your phone, where's your upcoming events and any events coming up?
Okay, so I am at St. Louis Anarchy this Thursday, which would be the
Actually, this won't air till after that drops. So
okay. Well, and probably when this airs, I will be in the UK. I will be having my first international tour, so I will be an international wrestler, and I'm very excited about it. And you'll probably be able to follow me on all of that stuff on my Twitter, which is Planet Williams One, the number one, and my Instagram, which is just Planet Williams, and my Facebook, which is Aaron Williams. So those are ways you can follow me. I think when I get back from the UK, it will be November. I'm doing Larry D's retirement show, which I'm very excited about. Myself, Gary J, and Pompano Joe will be in a triple threat match, which will be a hard hitting and entertaining affair. And then also, what else do I have going on? Spot Monkey Promotions, which is where I wrestled and tagged with Paul London. It's in the Southern Ohio region. And it is doing great stuff and having great shows. EC3, along with Paul London, was on the last show. I know they have some big stars, including myself, that are going to be at these next shows. So those are a couple. I know I'm missing one, but I can't remember what it is right now. So, I think I will be in Bloodstorm Pro in New Jersey. I want to see November 11th, and I will be wrestling in a triple threat match and against a young Austin Luke, who is a very talented young competitor, and I'm really looking forward to that. So that's what right now.
And people who want to get into wrestling and want to be trained by you, how do they go about that?
You can email Hawks Pro Wrestling Academy at gmail.com. There's also a Facebook page that is Hawks Pro Wrestling Academy. It is Cody Hawks School. I run it. And myself and Ryan Michaels are the trainers. And if you have a true desire to be a professional wrestler and you don't mind me like kind of yelling at you sometimes, because as you pointed out earlier, I am very passionate about this business and I want people who are going to be passionate about this business. So if you are one of those things, then I'm the guy for you.
Well, sir, I'm going to wrap it up tonight. So your phone's about dead. Before we go, I will end the show and I'll talk to you off the record for a second. And but thank you again. And we finally got this after what, like almost 2 years of going back and forth.
About time,
now, if I can get Matt on here, we'll be a good chance.
Yeah, man. There you go. Like,
One day I'll get you and Matt. No. My goal is to get you, Matt, Ron, get all and do like a big get my other couple friends who we used to all go to Rockstar, and we'll have like a big meeting about the people and all the wrestling events and stuff back in the day. So, but all right, I'm going to end it here, and I'll put all your information at the end of the episode so people can find you and come find your matches and stuff like that. Before I go, you got a YouTube page?
I don't, but you can type my name in and you'll find plenty of stuff.
Cool.